Welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club. I'm Justin Julander, and with me as always, Chuck Poland.
Hello.
Hello. We're coming to you live from Southern Arizona, where we are herping for the weekend, the long weekend, and we've got some special guests in the car with us. So, Steve Sharp, one of our oldest and dearest friends. Steve, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I was really glad that Steve was able to come on the herp trip. I mentioned that I was coming down here, and he's like, "Hey, I might be able to make that." I said, "That sounds really good."
And then finally let it slip that Steve was coming on a herp trip that I wasn't invited on. And as you all heard, I invited myself, and here I am. So when in doubt, bust your way in.
Yeah. Steve picked up Chuck on his way down, and man, he got up at like 4:30 in the morning and drove pretty much 2 in the morning. 1:30 in the morning, wasn't it? And drove straight down, picked up Chuck, and then drove down over to Arizona, and we met up. So I flew down and was picked up by our fourth guest here, or our fourth person, second guest, whatever, Dustin Grahn. Dustin, what's up?
How you guys doing?
And you will probably remember Dustin from Morelia Pythons Radio, where he did an interview there, but it's his first time on our podcast, so we're happy to have him here. And I met Dustin, a year and a half ago or something. Went on the herp trip with the NPR crew down to Tucson area, and Dustin showed us around and went out herping with us a day or two. And then in June we did another trip down here, and we Dustin went on the whole trip with us, so that's been really cool to get to know him. And I really enjoy his herping style. I think all of us in the car have a pretty similar herping style, and we're out here just getting it done, finding lots of stuff. It's been really a good trip so far. So let's see, what's the highlight of the trip so far, Dustin?
Definitely price side.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And that one was found. The first one was found by Chuck.
By the resident rookie, yeah. I feel like that's a good way to pull your weight on the trip. So I'm happy I could help Dustin out and find that. That was super sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty funny because Chuck heard it, and Dustin's like, "Oh, I hear that," and he looked down. It was right between his feet. So yeah, a little skid. It was a small one, and it's a small species anyway. But just kind of coiled up right between his feet. So
little rattlers are a little quiet.
Yeah, a little hard to hear, but that was pretty cool. So that was a lifer for Dustin and for me and Chuck.
Yes.
Steve was the only one that's found those before.
Steve was begrudgingly unimpressed. No, I'm kidding. He was very happy.
So yeah, it's but we've had a really good trip, and we found a lot of good stuff. So I don't know, what's your highlight, Steve?
I don't know. I mean, getting to see a wheeler die, even though we didn't find it ourselves, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So yesterday and today we knocked out all 3 of the montane species, except the wheeler die. As Steve mentioned, was a bit of a cheat. There was one of Dustin's friends was herping in the area, and he found it, so he alerted it to us, and we got to check that out, see that. So, yeah.
Showed us his Willadi.
His Willadi. Thank you, Nipper. So Dustin pronounces it Willardy as well, and we told him he could only pronounce it that way if he did it in an English accent, because it sounds so proper.
It's correct.
With the crumpets. Yes. We need Eric here to do his wonderful Nipper impersonation.
Yes.
Nipper he said it was just spot on. Perfect English accent.
It makes him buzz.
Yeah. Makes him muzz and buzz. Yeah. Buzz and muzz. The buzz and muzz combo. But yeah, I think definitely the price eye was a highlight.
Yeah.
We actually saw 2 of them in this, not too far from each other, so same area, which was really cool. The other highlight for me, I think, was that there was a really contrasty Melosis black-tailed rattlesnake.
Yeah, it was a really
beautiful snake. Yeah. That was fun. Another new species. There we've seen a couple of species.
The hooded night snake, or not the hooded. It's undescribed species.
Oh yeah.
Hooded night snake.
Yeah, it doesn't have a species name at this time, I guess, according to the second edition of the Reptiles of Arizona book. But yeah, that was a cool fun. Steve found that on a little pea break.
You found that? No, that was the one you found.
Oh, the night snake. Yeah. Oh, that was the tantilla. Steve found the tantilla on the pea break. That was really cool.
Nice to knock out the little fossorials.
Yeah, they're always it's hard to plan for those. But yeah, Steve found a tantilla yaki, black-headed snake. So cool stuff. So yeah, we've added a few new ticks to the list. One of mine kind of favorite ones was the Colorado river toad. I hadn't seen those in the wild, so that was really cool to see Colorado river toads, and we saw many of them. I think these guys got a little impatient because I kept wanting to stop and take pictures of all of them, but they're just really cool big toads. I tried to keep Chuck from licking them, man. He just wanted to lick every one of them.
I heard that they make you high, so I wanted to find out if that was true.
Please do not do that at home. We were just joking.
Yes.
You do not get high by licking toads. Even though Homer Simpson told you that's happened. All right, well, I don't know. This second take is not as good as the first take.
No, definitely not.
We recorded like 15 minutes, and it was like...
it was crap.
It was coming through the front microphone, so you couldn't hear us talking. We were blabbing the whole time, but... Steve's been on the
toad licker now.
Yeah, I know. So I guess today we're going to talk about conventional herper wisdom, if that is a good thing to follow, or if you should kind of go against the grains, go against conventional herper wisdom. A few things kind of put that in my mind. One of the things is the giant ball in the sky is shining brightly. There's a full moon tonight. I didn't plan the trip very well because there's a full moon, but
if you think such things
matter. Exactly. But we found lots of great stuff, so that's been really fun. So I was also going back to the Shine book. I keep blabbing on about the Shine book, but he was talking about the fact that you couldn't necessarily apply research from North American and European reptile species to Australian species, that they had some different things, different environment, different conditions. Life is a little more harsh in Australia than it is in, more easygoing places in Europe and North America. So that was kind of a big part of that book, or a big point of that book, is to, show how important his research was in regards to Australian reptiles. So, and I think he makes a good point of that. But I think there were also some things where I said, there's a lot of similarities between Australian species and species that we find out here in the West, in the desert, areas of Arizona and Utah. So that was kind of something I thought, let's chat about that. And we are coming up to a checkpoint, so I don't know how interruptive this will be. We usually fly through these pretty quick, but
they usually just wave you through.
Yeah, well, they won't see the illegals that we have hidden under all our gear.
Oh my gosh! Shut up! Say that.
Yeah, no, they probably have microphones on.
This guy's like, "Come on, dude! It says 15, but
well, that thing's telling me I'm going like 55."
That's not correct.
Okay, we're gonna pause for a minute.
How's it going, man?
Thank you, too.
Thanks. All right, we flew right through. We passed with flying colors. Shining colors? I don't think the colors.
Despite the jinx that you put on us with that.
I know. But all right, well, let's talk about conventional herper wisdom. You want to flip a coin? Should we divide down the middle of the car? You and Steve versus me and Dustin?
Yeah, I need a light.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay. Don't... Yeah, you want to let
me... Fine, you do it. Fine.
You're going to drop the thing.
This is the point where I make
Okay.
The argument that Dustin is a control freak.
We'll let Dustin call it since he's this is his first time on the podcast.
Wait a minute. You can't flip the coin.
Now I did it.
And you did it.
Ah, crap. It is heads.
What?
Chuck wins. Chuck and Steve win. All right. So,
all right.
What side do you want to take there, boys?
Are we gonna continue with our?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll take the con side or the.
You can go against conventional Herper wisdom and still have lots of great success.
That conventional Herper wisdom is all bollocks.
All right, you're on, man.
Maybe
all
not
bollocks.
Maybe not all bollocks.
Stat sig, man. Stat sig. All right. Do you want to go first or?
No, you guys go first.
Oh, big surprise.
Yeah.
Chuck deferring.
Listen, I'm trying new things here.
All right.
Not really, but.
Okay, so we're going to go, Dustin and I are going to go with following conventional Herper wisdom can be a good thing, lead to success. And, you know, I think there's definitely lots of instances. I think this trip has some of those instances as a part of it. You know, we're down here during the monsoon. We've seen quite a... What's that?
I'm talking to him.
Oh, we've seen quite a diversity of species, and we are exiting soon, so Dustin is navigating, but we've seen a great diversity, and I think, you know, having the rains come on, we also saw that in June because we were there for one of the early rain events, and that night that it rained a bit, we saw more, you know, that night than we'd seen up to that point. So it was a really productive night with a coral snake and a black-tailed rattlesnake and an Mojave. What else? A banded gecko. What else? Atrox. Yeah, that was a good night.
That was a good night.
That wasn't the same night as the Viridis, though, right? We saw that the previous night.
Yeah, that was the first night.
Yeah. So. I don't know. I mean, if you're hitting southern Arizona, you probably want to go during some part of the monsoon season, and that can extend, you know, for a few months. So we're here kind of more at the tail end, would you say, of the monsoon?
Stuff's starting to slow down a little bit, but I mean, we're still getting the rains, and with the rains usually come the animals.
Yeah, and I don't know if the last few years been very good as far as rain and moisture.
So last year was pretty good. We got a really good monsoon last year, and I was definitely seeing more animals. A couple years before, we're pretty dry. We were in a drought for a few years, and things were a little tough. There was some slow nights out there, but I mean, you definitely still saw animals out.
Yeah, but as far as numbers go, probably not.
A little less, yeah.
Yeah, a little less. And that kind of goes along with Shine's research as far as, you know, the rainy seasons and the boom and bust in regards to prey species. If the prey species are doing well, then the animals are going to do well, and it's a little harder to make a living if there's not enough moisture or water, you know. So the prey species usually decline in bad years, and then the predators follow, which is very straightforward logic. So if you're going to come down to southern Arizona, you probably want to come when the rains are good and there's plenty of prey species and the snakes are doing great. So I think we'd lead off with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I that's solid. I mean, I think, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean the wetter period or the greater accentuation of the monsoonal season definitely makes stuff move more. But these reptiles still have to still have to eat, still have to do what they do, even though it is a little bit drier. And just because you're not getting that really wet monsoonal season, and you're not going to see tons of animals because that's statistically what you see, it doesn't mean that you won't have a good night and see a diversity of things or something that you didn't expect to see. You know, I think bottom line is if you were to say, well, it's been kind of a mild monsoonal season and you don't go out, then you're absolutely not going to find anything. So you have to get out, you have to look, and, you know, not every night's going to be a great night, but, you know, by and large, I think the more you look, the more you and you know, you don't, if you're not out there, you don't understand the behavior that's happening. So if you're finding things, maybe you're finding them under different conditions, and maybe those conditions are keys for you, or alter the way that you do herping based on maybe monsoonal seasonal moisture.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, of course that you can still find stuff when conditions aren't optimal, and who's to say what optimal conditions are?
Yeah.
You know? That's kind of a tricky thing. So, well, speaking of optimal, we're trying to find the optimal road to turn on so we can get to the place where we're gonna do some road cruising. But so we've got Dustin and Steve a little preoccupied in the front seat, trying to figure out where we're going. Oh, what kind of toad?
I don't know. It's very small.
We're gonna go look at a toad. Yeah, speaking of moisture, you're probably not going to see a lot of amphibians if it's not very wet out.
Most definitely will not.
Yeah. Where do they hide out when there's... Okay.
What do we got?
What do we have here? Gentlemen's. All right. A pause for species identification.
I think it's a Mexican spadefoot again.
Mexican spadefoot. Do you want to pull it off the road? Oh, shoot. Ah, crap. There's a car coming the other way, too.
It's gonna get it.
It's gonna get it.
Bummer. That's the downside of road cruising, is you're gonna see...
Oh, I missed it.
Oh, good. Is a car coming?
Chuck, it does it on its own.
It does not do it on its own. You child protected it for me.
No, I didn't.
This is a common common thing. Oh, there goes the coin. But this is a fun thing when the doors lock and they don't unlock automatically or something. Is that another one up there? You see that little... Is that a rock?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, nice. What was the rebuttal? What were we rebuttaling?
I think the fact that you could find stuff if there wasn't... Oh, it's a couch-eye. We got a... No, let's check them out. We've got a couch-eye and a Mexican spadefoot. That's pretty cool. Couch-eye are a beautiful amphibian.
Cool, yeah.
They're really cool.
Sexually dimorphic.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to tell apart.
Look at that cute little thing. He's
Oh, wait. That's a...
Is that a couch-eye as well?
Hold on.
They look very similar. You think?
No, yeah, those are cool couch-eye.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 couches, spadefoots.
Yeah,
They're so pretty. They look pretty young too. Like,
they do.
They get a little bigger than that.
It's a car.
At least in Texas.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you may find things. Well, I guess they need to hear us to make a good rebuttal, but no, let's just.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Oh man, that's the fun of road cruising. You gotta. I think it's better just to let it roll. But you got pee on your hands now?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me see some of Steve's horrible hand sanitizer.
Oh, that stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. Smells like a dirty old tire fire.
Smells like Mother Russia.
Okay, so yeah, you can find stuff when conditions aren't great, but I would argue that the number is definitely increased when
Numbers won't be there.
Yeah, sure. and certain species won't be there. But at this, I guess, you know, to your point, you might see species that don't normally come out at you know, in different conditions. So
Sure.
maybe some prefer to come out when it's a little harder, or that brings them out, or that drives them out, and they're out more often because it's harder to find. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's something to your point there. But
What else did you find?
another toad.
Oh, there's a car behind us.
Oh, okay.
I'm letting them go by.
All right, letting them pass. Don't hit any snakes.
Is this super busy?
No,
Not usually.
Is what we're about to take over to.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So we're not to the road yet.
All right. Now that's I think Herper conventional wisdom is a lot of times, like, I think another point, or if we can start a new point here. Do you want to roll up your window?
Oh, yeah.
Is that, places to find stuff, right? A lot of people try to hide their places where they find. They're those all toads. They're all over the road. They're weaving toads. But where to find things. We have a lot of cool advances these days. We have iNaturalist or things where we can see where records are. But it seems like a lot of times when you go out herping, there's crowds. Like last night, we pulled into a spot and went to go looking for certain snakes, and there was like 3 cars that made the turnoff right in front of us. So it was like we had to follow these 3 cars, and we were just hoping they were going to the campground that was down the road. But of course, they went right to the spot, and they were out there, herping in the night. And I guess we don't know for sure if it was them, because it may not have been them. But when we went to look at some of the artificial covers on the board lines, there was stuff out of place or flipped in the wrong and not replaced. Not put back correctly. So, if you're going to the same spot as everybody else, you're going to have those issues. You're going to have problems. But at the same time, it's because there's stuff there.
Yeah. We did. I mean, granted, there was 3 other cars there, but we were probably the only people to find snakes that night.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show that these places are so well known. But you should go there because you're going to find these snakes. They're well known for a reason.
Yeah, I think the last several times we've been there, we've found something, Yeah.
I think also, talking about how people maybe are less forthcoming about giving up the spots that they herp. That's why, because you have people who come in there and just fuck shit up and don't respect the board lines or the spot, and it's not a shared resource unless it's well taken care of. So that was it.
Okay.
You can see Aatrox on this road, long nose on this road. Once we get a little more into the foothills.
Okay. I think again, to maybe more to your side of the argument is that if a spot is well known, it can actually lead to the destruction of the spot, because like one of the areas we went to is well known for pyros, the mountain king snakes back in the day, but they're very difficult to find these days because people went there because it was a known spot and they over collected, and so now they're very difficult to find there.
Hey man, you're helping out Chuck's side.
Oh, I know, sorry. Okay, so
I need the help. It's all right, Dustin. He has to do this, otherwise there'd be no show.
The Kumbaya, the Reptile Kumbaya Club.
That and Steve's not participating right now, so.
Oh, Steve's participating.
I'm giving a hard time. Just stop. Let me. I have a role to play. Just let it happen.
All right. Well, what do you got, Dusty? You got any points for our side? Following conventional wisdom.
I guess we kind of touched on conditions being right. We go on temperatures.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily want to go out in the middle of the day when it's 110 degrees out, but
you're not going to find too much then. Even like diurnal lizards are kind of scarce when it's that hot, but
And I think there's definitely certain governing factors where when you hit those upper temperatures, upper limits for temperature, when it just becomes too dry, when it just becomes too wet, there's those hard limits that when you hit those, yes, you're gonna start. But there's a lot in the middle, and so I feel like there's I don't want to say like microclimates almost, to where not every area, or the area you're in, if you say the conditions here are such, so it's not worth going out, maybe there's something to that. You from your experience can kind of say, all right, based on what's here, I would guess this area is like this. Maybe it's not the best. Maybe there's something to that, but unless you really go out there and know what's happening at that moment, it's hard to, that's a a hard thing to say it's not worth to do or whatever.
Yeah, I think for the most part, if you're going to go out herping, you're going to find, generally speaking, you're going to find stuff more in the spring and in the fall than in the middle of summer and the middle of winter. But also it depends on the species you're looking for. So you need to know, of course, the area you're going to, the species you're looking for, kind of their natural history, because some species might be found more readily in the dry season or in the in the winter time. Like I think green tree pythons, man. Like Matt Somerville and a few others went up to Iron Range and found like 20 green tree pythons. They're just everywhere, it seems. And other times of the year you go up there and you may be lucky to see one or two. So if you're kind of going in the right time of the year for that species, you're going to probably have better luck finding them. Is that to say that you're not going to see any on the wrong time of the year? No, and maybe that's okay to just see one or two rather than see 20. But I don't know, it's kind of fun to stop repeatedly for something rather than just once.
And I think a lot of it's probabilities, right? You're by going at the right time of the year, you're increasing your probability. By going at the right temperatures or the right factors, you're increasing your probability.
Stat sig.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot in the margins for that, and so what is perfect conditions? Are you capturing what those conditions are? What causes species to move? Some things, maybe there's factors that you're missing. Maybe there's, maybe there's predator predation things happening that you're not capturing. So I think, sometimes you just got to get out there and do, and if you have you have a slow night, you have a slow night, but maybe there's something to be gleaned by going out in a time that you may think that things won't happen for you or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that maybe more applies to people who live in a certain area, like snake. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pause. All right, Aatrox safely removed out of the road. He was not going to sit still for pictures, but really nice looking animal. So, All right, Dustin's got a good point.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will say that you only find like a specific species in like a specific habitat, but that's a cow. A lot of these animals are generalists, and they're going to take advantage of any opportunity that they can. Like some of the species we found this trip were supposed to be somewhere where they weren't. Like take the alligator lizard, for example.
Yeah.
That's generally a montane lizard, and we found that in a pretty low desert.
Ow. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's cholla and mesquite trees and yuccas and the occasional oak, but
yeah.
a really cool habitat to see that animal in.
Yeah, where you wouldn't expect it. And we also we met up with Bob Ashley at the Chiricahua Desert Museum and got to chat with him for a bit. He showed us around. Really cool guy. But he was telling us a spot where you could find a certain species that were like, really? They're out there? And so we're like, okay, now we need to go back there and look for those. So places you wouldn't expect them. And so I think, I don't know, this again might go back to your guys' side, and maybe I let you guys talk instead of bringing up a point for you. But I think going to where now you made that point for them?
I definitely did. I didn't realize it, but I guess. If you go up in the mountains, you're gonna find more alligator lizards.
Yeah, that's for sure. If you're headed to the desert to look for alligator lizards, you're probably not gonna find many of them. But all right, way to turn that around, Dustin.
Definitely some seriously displaced alligator lizards. Steve, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you just don't want to limit yourself based on other people's experiences or opinions, because a lot of that is sometimes people just say things based on things that they've been told by other people. So that's something else to keep in mind as well when you're making decisions about where to go. I think the best thing to do is just study things out yourself and learn that animal's natural history and where it's most likely to be found. But range extensions happen all the time, you know, and we find things in places that we wouldn't think they would be. You know, it's like we were talking about the alligator lizard that was found in the last little bit of Sonoran Desert that kind of creeps into that area, that little section of New Mexico. And there's juniper trees, there's live oaks. Those are things that alligator lizards are associated with, you know, with leaf litter. And it makes sense that lizard was there, but at the same time, none of us were expecting to see that lizard there. So it's kind of cool to find those things. And, you know, it wasn't necessarily a range extension or something that was like publishable, but at the same time, just learning where things are and learning terrain. That's something Chuck and I have been talking quite a bit about, you know, making mental notes of when you find an animal, like what were the conditions when you found it? What was it doing? Was it under something? How hot was it outside? You know, like kind of trying to create those mental benchmarks in your head if you're new to herping are important, because even knowing how a lizard looks, like if you go and look at a field guide, look at the pictures of the animals, look at how they're shaped, that puts a picture in your head for things that could be difficult to spot otherwise. You have at least what the animal really looks like. You might not have that exact phenotype, but you'll at least have a general idea of what you're looking for.
What it looks like on the road, what it looks like in
exactly situ. How it moves, how it, like when you see it dart away, where it went when it darted away. So all of those things are important benchmarks to create in your head if herping is something that you want to really invest a lot of time and energy into. If you're just kind of walking lackadaisically through the desert, not paying attention to what's going on around you, you'll miss a lot of stuff.
I mean, and I feel like I'm kind of a rookie compared to you guys as far as herping, but I mean, would you say that you know, a lot of your experience with herping comes from seeing it, knowing where it is, and having that mental note, so that it becomes, after you do it over and over, it becomes an automatic thing, and you can almost call out what you're seeing, or you know where to find things because you've had that recurring experience, and your repertoire of how to find it is much deeper, you know, and ever changing, right? This is environments are dynamic things. They're always changing. So, you know, trying to find stuff in maybe areas that are similar but not the same, that were close to where you know, but maybe it isn't somewhere where you've heard. I think that can be of benefit. And if you don't find it, then okay, maybe it's not working. Maybe I try a different time. Maybe try a different, temperature. You know, try different factors. And then when you find it, you say, aha, okay, maybe this is something. Do it again. Do it again. If you keep finding it, maybe there's something to that. You're increasing your statistical probabilities through repetition. Stat sig. But I would also say that if you're gonna, you're usually not building from the ground up. Usually you start herping on conventional wisdom. You know, you're going out with somebody who knows kind of how to find stuff, and you're kind of learning from them and seeing like, okay, this is how I herp, and this is when I go out. And usually people who have seen most everything, they kind of get that idea and kind of know when to go out and when the most productive times would be to go out and find it. And, you know, when I come to an area like Southern Arizona, I listen to people like Dustin who live down here and who go out herping a lot. And, you know, when's the best time to come? I'll listen to them and for that answer. So and once you've kind of been in their shoes, or once you've lived down here or something, you might refine it from there and look for other areas or look for other conditions when you might find it out. But like in a time like now, that can be expensive. So you want to maximize your time and base what you're doing on conventional herp wisdom, because it usually has some facts behind it. Yeah, I completely agree there. I think you have to start somewhere, and the shared experience of somebody who's been out there and found it and done it. Slow down.
is it's invaluable. It's to, you gotta start somewhere. I think that's simple.
I think we're following some conventional herp wisdom now, aren't we, Dustin?
I think so.
Yeah, Dustin's been in this area a few times, and this is the spot where he oftentimes will find some of our target species. So that would be really nice to find these, because I haven't seen them in the wild yet. Although we did release one when we got here, so that was kind of cool. So hopefully, I'm not going to say it out loud in case we don't find it. I don't want to jinx it.
No jinxing.
So, but there is a reason there is herper conventional wisdom. So, when you rely on that,
and a lot of it proves very true. Like, but when we were talking to Bob, and he was, kind of giving us, try, this spot, that spot. Those are spots are known for a reason.
That's very helpful to get intel from somebody who knows the area very well. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that and have a place to build from. I mean, we're working off of field guides that take how much time. Oh yeah, there's a Encilius.
Oh, sorry, there's a toad. We gotta check it out.
It's not Justin's side.
All right, toad stop completed. Let's see if we can find something else.
What were you saying?
Steve? Yeah, Steve was.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was just saying. I was trying to make a point about like field guides. Like we utilize field guides, and there's a lot of energy and effort that goes into a field guide, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's maybe in some cases hundreds of people, right? Like gathering photographs, the people that did the sampling to figure out the range map, right? Like there's a ton of stuff that goes into these books, and the people that write them typically are sampling from friends and colleagues and their traditional wisdom, their experience, but at the same time,
keep going.
No, that's just a piece of concrete or something. At the same time, science and biology and what we know about animals is always changing, especially reptiles and amphibians, as we study them more, and we're able to study them in new ways, in different ways. We learn more about them, and we document new behaviors all the time. Like I'm working with a lizard species at the zoo I work at, and we documented a behavior in the zoo with this particular species that's heavily studied in the wild. It's critically endangered and is very, very well studied and documented. And no one had ever documented this particular behavior until this year in the field. No one, and somebody just happened to catch photos of what we had seen on camera, because we have cameras filming a lot of the interactions when we pair our lizards together. This is on the blunt-nosed leopard lizard, but it's this really neat anti-copulatory behavior that females do to kind of roll out of an advancing male that's trying to grasp them to mate, and when that female's unreceptive, she'll kind of do a little flip. And this has been documented in other critophytids, but it's never been documented in blunt-nosed leopard lizards. So it's kind of neat to see something in the field, kind of complementing things that we're seeing in the zoo. And I think, though, that it's just an example of something that we're always learning new information and new things. And so conventional wisdom is always changing and being updated. I think that the trick is, and I guess for Chuck and I's side of it, is to challenge conventional wisdom. I think that we should be doing that continually. That's what science is. We go out, we test things, and we learn new things all the time. And sometimes it's like, if there's a conventional wisdom in southern Arizona, is don't go out when there's a full moon. We just saw a whole bunch of toads, and then we also saw a western diamondback crossing the road. And that's a well-known thing. Like, don't go out during the full moon. You won't see anything. But, I see stuff when there's a full moon when I'm out herping. So, and we just saw a bunch of stuff tonight. So that's another one of those examples that, may or may not be that one of those examples of like a folklore type of thing where somebody had a bad experience one time and that they never went herping on a full moon again. And so there's a lot of that stuff that's conventional wisdom that gets passed down and is unnecessary and deprives us of stuff if we follow it, you know.
Yeah, and I think even very smart people can be subject to very unscientific conclusions sometimes, based on the, you know, we're all very, very dependent upon our own results and our own personal experiences. So I think that can lead us to biases. And I think what you said about being scientific in your approach to things really brings some validity to, because if you're going to challenge convention, you know, what is it, you know, what the things that went into a field guide, you need to have some substance to it. You can't just you know, have opinions that are contrary very arbitrarily, right?
Yeah, I think that, you know, challenging conventional wisdom requires definitely experience and maybe the money or, you know, the will to do it. Because you have to put in some work to challenge that conventional wisdom, because you know, a lot of times to get a range extension takes a lot of effort to see, okay, is there similar habitat close by? And, you know, especially with hard to detect species, I know that a lot of my herper friends in Utah will go out in different mountain ranges looking for tricolor snake, you know, either the milk snakes or the mountain king snakes, and a lot of them had found you know, these tricolors in areas where you wouldn't anticipate them to be based on conventional wisdom. So, you know, there can be some benefit to that, but it's difficult, it's time consuming, and a lot of times, you know, you may not prove that to be the case. You may not find them in that mountain range. So that can be difficult to challenge in a lot of cases, and does require a lot of work. So, and I think, you know, when I think about, I like to go to a lot of different places, especially like Australia, to go herping, and if I'm gonna, you know, fly all the way to Australia, I want to try to maximize my thing. So I'm going to listen to experts. I'm going to follow that conventional wisdom, and maybe I've already made that point, but I think that's a very strong point for our side. But
well, I think you need to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know,
exactly.
People who have had success that is repeatable and continuous is probably the best place to start.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what Steve and I are kind of talking about is stuff that's follow on to a fundamental start to herping.
I think it is maybe more fun to discover for yourself, you know, to, like, I don't know, when I did plan my trips to Australia, I did talk to a lot of people, and I tried to get information or good places to start, best times of year to go over, and then I planned out the trip, and we went over and just put ourselves in the area, and we did find a lot of stuff. It was a really good and successful trip, and I was really happy. But, you know, I talked to a very experienced field herper in Central Australia, and he's Rex Neindorf. He runs the Australian Reptile Park, and he's like, oh yeah, you should have come in December or January. The roads are just crawling with geckos, you know. So it's like all the advice I got was good advice, and we still found a lot of stuff. But you know, if I guess our goal was mostly geckos, then January would have been a maybe better time to come than October. Yeah. So, you know, you live and learn, but we did see quite a few gecko species, but, you know, we missed out on some of the really cool ones like Amia and stuff. So there's, you know, definitely a reason to go back, and to go back at a different time. Steve and I went on a trip to Western Australia and we did pretty much a very similar trip that my wife Heidi and I had done the previous year. And Heidi and I went in October, and Steve and I went in November. And so, it was interesting to kind of compare and contrast a very similar trip with, different results. In one area, I think Heidi and my trip was much more successful. We saw a broader diversity of species as well as higher numbers of species. When Steve and I went, we still saw pretty good diversity, but there was only like one or two of each species, so it just wasn't as maybe hopping that night. And that could have been just a night-to-night variability. Is there another toad?
Yeah.
Okay, one sec. All right, false alarm. I got to mess with these guys. It was a rock, so I chucked it off, and they thought I was throwing a toad. So yeah, I mean, it
which
can
you
vary.
wouldn't do. By the way, yeah.
The other thing was, the conventional wisdom is that Fog Dam is like, it has the highest concentration of snakes in the world, perhaps, or at least in Australia. And so, you go to Fog Dam and you're going to see water pythons. That's kind of the conventional wisdom. So we went there on a trip in 2011, and one night we went to Fog Dam and we saw nothing. We saw maybe like a slaty gray or a keelback or something, and a few frogs. So we saw something, but like no water pythons. And then we went back the very next night. Conditions seemed pretty similar, and we saw, very many water pythons. We saw several, and so it was kind of true to form the second night versus the first night. So,
and what is that? Is that something you missed? Is that just happenstance by chance? And that's what I mean. Is like it may be random, it may be something you're missing, it may be, you just don't know. So,
but I would say law of averages, like if you go at that time of the year, and you go 5 or 6 times to Fog Dam, you're probably going to see a water python versus in the wrong season, it's going to be much harder to find them. That's not to say you won't find them in the the best times or the worst times, and you will find them in the best times. So I don't know if that makes sense, but there's a little bunny rabbit. You did a little donkey kick right when the car was approaching him. That was cool. Anything to add there?
Just get out. I mean, you're not going to find snakes sitting at home. You're not going to find anything sitting at home. Just get out, try what you can, do whatever you can, try everything. I mean, just eliminate variables. Like if you don't know something, get out there early in the morning, spend the whole day, and just take notes on when you're seeing stuff, and your herping will just get better and better from there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing advice.
Yeah, and I think that was another kind of big point in the Shine book, is they did try to with all the many years of gathering data and having many different species that they were tracking in tropical northern Australia. They tried to draw conclusions. So they took all the weather information, all the the finds and record species that they found and recorded, and they tried to figure out what conditions resulted in the best activity, and they couldn't find anything that was significantly better than anything else. And so there was really no conclusions to be drawn. So I don't know if that says it's just all luck and there isn't any conventional herper wisdom in that regard. Like there's no way to say if you go out when the temperature is this and the humidity is this, you will find X, so.
Well, I certainly don't think that they're saying that it's all crap and, you should just walk off into the scrub and start looking because you'll find something. I definitely think, there's certain natural history to be gleaned and certain things to be gleaned, but that maybe taking a rigid approach to how you herp is maybe detrimental.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the more specific point is that from my experience, when we went one night and saw 0 water pythons to the next night when we saw several water pythons, there was no perceivable difference in conditions. I mean, we were there during the right time of year, the right season. So following that conventional wisdom, going back to Fog Dam was probably going to be good rather than bad. It's just kind of luck of the draw from there. So
same volume of Sweet Lady DDP.
I don't even think I was drinking Sweet Lady DDP back then. I hadn't discovered the joys of the Sweet Lady. So, but like Dustin said, put yourself out there. You can probably draw broad conclusions, maybe not specific conclusions between one day to another during good seasons, but getting out more and more is just going to increase your chances. And there's like we've discussed on the what's that?
There's a toad.
Oh, another toad. Okay, another toad. Stop. Okay, another false alarm. But is that a tarantula?
I don't know.
Something dark. I don't know. We saw a cool vinegaroon yesterday. That was pretty sweet.
Vinegaroon.
And
they do smell like vinegar.
They do smell like vinegar. Dustin found that out. He has a... Does it still... Do your hands smell like vinegar?
No, it smells like schweeze now.
He replaced the vinegar for the schweeze smell. Steve had a point.
Yeah, I was just trying to make a point about not being too focused on. Oh, that's a toad. Not being too focused on all aspects of the the conventional herping wisdom. I think we should follow some of those things, obviously, because they're based on people's positive experiences. But at the same time, not just letting those rule your entire herping trip. I think I'm thinking about what we all talked about today. Like, we've heard so many different ways of where to look and how to find oxybellas. Yeah. And honestly, it's just a difficult snake to find. And we were down there all day looking for oxybells for a good chunk of the day, and we didn't see anything. So I think that everybody has their opinions, and go out and form your own opinions. Go out and figure out your own ideas, and you'll gain those through going out and experiencing success. And everything is regional. Everything is going to be slightly different. Where I herped up near Phoenix, on the outskirts of Phoenix, is a little bit different than some of the areas that Dustin herps in. So it varies a lot, and honestly, like, you're not going to see anything if you're sitting at home, like Chuck was saying. So just get out there and do stuff.
That's very well said. That's I think the main point of this. Just get out there and do it. Just do it. You said you would yesterday.
And the thrill. I mean, the thrill of getting out and finding things. It's amazing. It's I don't know. I guess with my kids, and my kids want to sit at home, and my wife is an introvert, so she's not one to get out, but to get out and to have experiences with, your herping buddies, and get out in nature and experience things. And it's just, do it. I don't know what else to say.
No, I think hopefully we contained a little bit of that, because it is fun to get out and herp, and the excitement of, is that something, is that nothing, is that a rock, or is that a toad, or is that a snake, it's a lot of fun. And I also like the thrill of discovery on your own, finding things out for yourself, exploring new places can be really rewarding. So anything to add, Dustin?
I mean, you don't even need like herping friends. Just I wrangle my non-herping friends to go out all the time, and they still have fun. Especially when you see a cool snake, like, they get all excited just as much as I do.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, getting others excited about it, and so they're thinking less negatively about reptiles and kind of seeing that excitement and fun. I mean, there's a reason, I guess, Pokemon and things like that are exciting, because they want to try to find everything and collect them all. So I guess you can apply that here too, except the collection part. Yeah. Unless you're a dirty collector. Sorry, inside joke. All right, well, I guess we'll end it here. We just wanted to throw something on.
Yeah.
It's good. It's always hard to bottle that, but yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed listening. Where can the folks find you too? Dustin, where are you at?
You can follow me on Instagram at gecko.sphere. Just message me if you want to talk reptiles or herping or anything.
Cool. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on Instagram a ton or Facebook a ton, but those are both places you can get in touch with me. But my Instagram is at mindfulherp, and then just Steve Sharp on Facebook. If you're interested in some aspects of zookeeping and just reptile photos, that's kind of what I post about from time to time, but again, not super active on social media.
So be patient if you send him a message.
That's right.
I'm on Instagram, JG Julander. Check me out. Also Facebook, Justin Julander, Australian Addiction Reptiles as well. Good times. Chuck?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Chuck Norris Wins, and you can find me under Chuck Poland on Facebook. So,
all right. Well, thanks for listening to Reptile Fight Club from the field, from Southern Arizona. We'll catch you next week for another episode. Swing! Don't you mean schweeze?